Here's a story from The Guardian. I love it. Unqualified henchman. Fears rise as Trump names far-right podcaster as FBI deputy director. Now, what I really love about this is that Kash Patel named Dan Bongino formally as he is the FBI director, and we're big fans. But we all know it was actually Trump. Like, no one's pretending it's not. Dan Bongino had said in the past he would only work for the government if Trump personally asked. Some things are more important. So this is big. Let's just throw away all of the fake writing from the corporate press. We can talk about their smears in a second. But let me just say this. Dan Bongino is on the forefront of calling out the corruption in government, in the bureaucracy, in the deep state. There's a reason why he has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He has the biggest live podcast in the world, unquestionably, routinely getting upwards of 170,000 concurrent viewers. This morning at 250,000. Now, here's what's crazy. First, let me just say, I've been on a show before. He's been on our show. He's a very straightforward guy. He was a cop for a couple of years. Then he was a secret special agent in the Secret Service. So he's got law enforcement experience, but he's got deep political understanding. So I think this is an excellent choice. It is what dreams are made of for all of us. We were all surprised. Hard to believe it's true. So I'm very excited for what Dan is going to do, because Dan has called out so much of this corruption. The fact that he's there, I'm feeling really, really great. But I want to just say this. Dan Bongino, with a show as big as his, I hope y'all understand. I don't have the hard numbers on how much money he makes, but based on his viewership, I'm spitballing $10 to $30 million, somewhere in that range per year. Here's a man who built up this big audience. He can read ads all day and talk about how he feels with the news. He can be as wealthy as a king could ever dream of. He could want for nothing. I mean, you're talking $30 million a year. This is owning your own private jet level. This is flying around in a Gulfstream, getting Italian ice cream delivered for breakfast. And he said, you know what? I'm going to be a civil servant instead for like a minimal salary. And that to me, you know, I tweeted, people need to understand the sacrifice he's making to do this. Because I don't know that I could, like, you know, I worked so hard to build this company. If Trump said, we want you to do a civil servant job, we're going to pay you a, six-figure salary, I'd be like, I don't know, man. Like, I walk away from everything I built and all my plans and all my dreams. I mean, I don't think Dan Bongino had his 5-year plan being like, and then I'll stop building one of the biggest shows in the world in my network and go be a civil servant. But I think for Dan, it's very obvious what his priorities are. And his priorities, it lends itself to his show. When he goes on his show and he says, I am sick of the corruption, people clap for him and say, yes. And then Trump says, want to deal with it? He goes, yes, I do. And so he doesn't care about the money. He cares about everything he's ever talked about that made his show so big. So shout out to Dan Bongino, man, absolutely incredible stuff. But so I'll throw it to you guys so I don't keep ranting on this one. I'm just deeply inspired by Dan, willing to step away from all this to do the right thing. But dream come true?
Absolutely. No, I got a text from my dad. He sent me the Truth Social post from Trump. And I said, oh, you got to vet those better because that's impossible. Then I go on Twitter and everybody's talking about Dan Bongino is I'm like, what, are we really going to do this? We're really going to do this. So we have Kash Patel and Dan Bongino running the FBI. And you got to think of these things. When you think back to when Trump, quote unquote, lost 2020, right? You would never have had anything like this in 2020.
No.
You would never have had Kash Patel running the FBI. These are not things you can think of. RFK at HHS, Tulsi Gabbard DNI. We had to go through what we went through to get what we're getting now. And we're getting the dream team of all dream teams. These are patriots beyond any imagination. Bongino, if anyone's going to clean house, talk about life insurance for Kash Patel. Kash Patel just became assassination proof. But this guy right here, no, this is going to be the clean out of all clean outs. And Adam Schiff, God, I would not want to be him today.
Yeah,
he just left the country.
Did he really?
No, I don't know.
Did he leave the
because
country? Can we take the passport real quick?
Yeah.
When they announced Dan Bongino, that was the first thing I tweeted, a picture of Kash and Dan, and I was like, start tracking like those private flights out of the country.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to make light of all the bad things that happened because of COVID. A lot of people lost their lives. It was really, a lot of people lost their businesses. But there's a part of me that thinks that COVID might have saved America.
COVID was a blessing.
I
understand what you're saying.
I'm delicate.
I'm not. Look what happened to the country. We are here now because of the unfortunate circumstances of the world being mutilated by COVID.
I agree with your broader point. Again, I don't want to be insensitive to the people that were hurt, but it really was. It really did wake a lot of people up. There's an entire generation of people that will never trust the government Never fully trust the government, and at the very least, we'll never trust the establishment government.
Right.
So maybe there'll be people that are like, okay, I think that someone like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, I think maybe I'll trust them. Maybe I can trust RFK, and not trust that they're always going to be right, but trust that their intentions are good. If they make a mistake, if something bad happens, you're not going to feel like maybe they did that on purpose, which is something that everybody in America, well, not everybody, but so many Americans kind of have that inclination now. Maybe, it's like, so when you were told you shouldn't wear masks in the beginning of COVID, and then come to find out the reason they said that was because they wanted to make sure that doctors and people that were dealing with sick people had the masks, and then come to find out that they were wrong about that too. They were wrong about whether you needed them.
Ventilators.
Yeah, and the ventilators and all that stuff, and they never actually said we're sorry about this. There was no remorse. There was all the deal with it, close your business, all those things.
They were given pardons.
Yes,
yeah,
100%
for their action over this period of time. And just to add to your point, Fauci had an interview where he was talking about why you should wear masks. A news reporter said, well, then maybe 2 masks will help. And Fauci literally goes, you don't need to wear 2 masks. But the news picked up the talking point and decided to run with, are 2 masks better than 1?
Yeah, double mask.
And the news media narrative looped back on the CDC, overriding what Fauci had originally said, and all of a sudden people were double masking. It is this mass formation psychosis that ultimately results in these weird policies that ultimately results in a backlash. So I would call it a shock to the system.
Yeah, we needed it.
And now Dan Bongino is deputy FBI director.
And to add to that, like people like Tulsi Gabbard, who was on the Quiet Skies list, now running the DNI. People like Bhattacharya, who was blacklisted for years because of his takes on COVID. Now he's running the I forget what department he's running, but he's playing an integral role that was literally one of the people that had blacklisted him. People like RFK, there's a certain amount of confidence that you can have that these people are not going to be falling in line with whatever the government says. Now, again, they can make mistakes. They are not perfect.
Sure, they will.
They will make mistakes. The bureaucracy is still a bureaucracy, and bureaucracies are inclined to make errors. But at least you can safely say, I think that they're not trying to lie to me in order to save face for international organizations like the UN or like the NWO, the World Health, World Health
hearts are in the right.
You know what I mean? So, and that is a great thing.
Huge thing.
So the question I got for you, Joe, is who do you think Dan goes after first? As in who? It can be a person or a group. Is it going to be cartels? Is it going to be...
Maybe it's just...
it's hard to know. I mean, you're talking about the FBI. You're talking about so many criminals going on. I know we want to see the big names. We want to see the big senators go down. I don't believe that's where he's going to go right away, because it's just not... That wouldn't work. You have to get a big unifying thing, right? I think cartels are a perfect option. He could do that. I don't know, though. You could see a lot of these gangs that are in here, the MS-13s, Rendir Agua. He's talking about that a lot too. I don't know. We have no idea. There's so much to go after. J6, justice for J6 would be out of this world.
Well, let me say this. A lot of the moves that Trump and his team are making are indicative of targeting the resources of the deep state, the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So obviously, what was Trump's quote? Or something about there's not going to be blue states. What did he say? Do you remember that quote?
No. What is that?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that one up. Trump said something to that effect. I forgot what he said. The leftists were all freaking out. And they're like, this means he's going to attack, a big surprise. What is that quote? I can't remember what the exact quote was, but you've got these stories popping up. I'll just throw this one in there. Where blue states fear invasion by red states and National Guard. Like, these are the talking points we're getting from the left about Trump basically ending their ability to vote, whatever. I call this Donald Trump's march to the sea. He's gutting the resources, USAID, the spending that has circled back and been funding these leftist organizations. So it does seem like, first and foremost, Trump's strategy is, how can we stop them from getting back power?
Yes.
In which case, for Dan and Kash, the first moves may be, why was Trump's home raided? Why wasn't Biden prosecuted? What happened on J6? What did they know, and when did they know
That's
it?
why I think Bongino and Cash have to go after FBI leadership right away.
That's
I've been in contact with an FBI whistleblower since the end of last year, who's been caught up in lawfare against the FBI for like years, and her story is just like Marcus Allen's story. Marcus Allen testified before the Congress last year. And he said they just rule with fear and reprisal. And they were trying to clean house of anyone who might have had conservative values or went against leadership. So, these people are just using taxpayer money to fund their negligence and their lawfare against actual whistleblowers who are calling out unethical practices. And they've been weaponized, the FBI has been weaponized against us. That's why the Cash appointment is my favorite one. I love them all. That's great. But destroying the FBI would be amazing, and rebuilding it to something that it actually should be.
You do have to rebuild it. You do have to have a Federal Bureau of Investigations. But what we have had right now, it's just been a criminal organization.
I did find it. You've got this story popping up all over the place. Trump reveals surprise and warns blue states will disappear off the map.
There are people that believe that he will literally annihilate the states.
Is he going to do that?
There are people that are that crazy. They're like,
hey, all of these leftists, I did this today. I spent an hour just going through all of these leftist subreddits where they're all claiming civil war is coming. Yeah. And the best part is these very same liberal pundits.
We're calling you names.
No. So not only were mocking me for suggesting we were on track to a civil war, talking about, look, I didn't make it up. It's a bunch of articles in the press saying civil war, civil strife, etc. You got a guy, Stephen Marsh, writing a book about it. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And so these liberals, these prominent podcasts are like Tim Pool's crazy. He's always talking about civil war. Now, in their very own subreddits, their very own audience is spam blasting either calls for civil war or warnings that a civil war is coming. And I'm like, I wonder what changed. And all of a sudden you think this is going to happen.
Yep. I mean, look, I've said this before. If there's going to be some kind of civil unrest, civil uprising, let it be while the conservatives are in control of the government.
There you go.
If it's got to happen, let it be while the conservatives are in control of the government.
For one reason, it will keep things stable. Like when I look at what Democrats were doing in office, raiding Trump's home, falsely accusing him of crimes, I'm like, well, if conflict arises while they're in control, it is chaos and corruption. With Trump and the populist right in control, it's going to be, I got to be completely honest, it's going to be much more to the book. Despite all the lies and everything they want to claim, Trump never overstepped his bounds in his first term. They have no evidence to suggest he's going to this time around. They're claiming already he did because he's asserting the executive branch as the Constitution. This is funny. Trump had to sign an executive order saying the Constitution says the executive authority is vested in the president, and they're all aghast.
Yeah.
Elon Musk says, can you write 5 sentences about what you do? And they're losing their minds. Hilarious. Okay, so that's why I look at Trump and his administration, and I'm like, well, if chaos does break out, there's going to be functional law enforcement under a Trump administration and chaos under a Democrat administration.
Yep. And we talk about or you hear people complaining about the email from Musk saying, say what you did. If you dig into it a little bit, you'll hear that there are actually like exemptions. Like Tulsi said, look,
right.
Yeah, you guys that are working in the intel area of the government, you can ignore this. I will get in touch with the president and get in touch with Doge and let them know that it's probably not a good idea for you all to list 5 things that you did considering security clearances.
I still can't believe how mad they are about the 5 things.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.